Our chalice lighting this morning is being read by Dom Berardi Ortiz, and it will be Oneness by Sri Chinmoy.
We light our chalice today with words adapted from Oneness by Sri Chinmoy. Oneness is perfect expansion or inner reality. Let our hearts' oneness only increase to make us feel that we belong in a universal world family. In this world family is fulfilled dream of the universe. May the light of our chalice remind us that we are one.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you, Dom. Good morning. I'm Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. And our church is built on land that's the traditional territory of the indigenous Iowa people. As always, when you hear one of the land acknowledgements, consider donating at least $1 to indigenous owned, run, or supporting programming. We ask that everyone keep your mics muted during the entire service. You will notice we are not singing out loud today. We are going to have music and hymns, but we are not singing. And the whole reason for that is we thought we were going to be in person and we weren't going to be allowing singing. So Bruce has some wonderful versions of those that he worked on, and we weren't about to rechannel those at this late moment. Graham Ball said, authentic allyship is not about amplifying your own voice, but rather listening to the voices of people within the community and what they're saying. They need to be uplifted. We're going to be talking today about the work of allyship and the work of being a co-conspirator and the work of hanging in and hanging on until this race is won and we can all go home together. I'm so glad you're here. So come and let us celebrate together.
Good morning and welcome to this digital service of First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. My name is Birch Spick. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs, and it's an honor to be with you here this morning. We welcome all of you to this service, especially those of you who are searching for something more. More love, more joy, more freedom, more service, more learning. Whether you are here for the hour or for a lifetime or somewhere in between, thank you for joining us in this community that grows ethically and spiritually, serves justly, and loves radically. Our first song played by Bruce today is number 34 in our gray hymnals, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. Please listen along at home.
Thank you, Bruce. That was gorgeous. Today, we're talking about what it means to be an ally. A mom named Melanie Wilform explains, an ally is a friend who's willing to stand up for what's right and has your back if you're being treated unfairly because you're different. We want to be allies to all kinds of people who get treated unfairly, and we want to do it well. We want to do it even when the people who are being treated unfairly aren't standing right there next to us. But to be a good ally, there are some really simple rules we have to learn. Rule number 1, check your privilege at all times. Well, what does that mean? It means know what things about you give you an advantage over some people. Maybe how much money your family has, or the color of your skin, or what religion you are, or even what gender you are. Things that give you privilege are things you're born with. So you just have to know those things. Rule number 2, understand that knowing people who are marginalized doesn't equal being inclusive. Well, what does that mean? That means that just because you know someone who gets treated unfairly, that doesn't mean you're doing enough to help. Rule number 3, don't get upset. When you get told maybe you're not doing it as well as you thought you were, sometimes you try really hard and the people you're trying to help tell you, well, you're doing it wrong. Don't cry or get mad or get upset. Listen and learn because they love you enough to help you understand. Number 4, acknowledge that ally is not an identity. Well, what does that mean? That means, well, we can quit being allies at any time. We can just go home. We're not born being allies. If things get scary, we can leave. But the people we are trying to help, well, they always have their identity. You can't just decide one day you don't want to be Black anymore, so you're going to quit and go home. Know that your opinion takes a backseat to those with experience. That's rule number 5. That means people who are being unfairly get to tell us how to help them. Number 6 is learn for yourself. Don't expect people to tell you everything. Go out and read and ask questions. And 7, remember that being picked on for who you are, it isn't real simple. People can be picked on for being Black and a girl, and maybe being handicapped too. There are a whole bunch of things people can get picked on for. If you remember these simple rules, you can be a great ally, and you can start today. So thank you for listening to my words. Our offering today is done, of course, with great seriousness. God called down to Moses and said, I've got good news and bad news. What do you want first? And Moses said, oh, most merciful Lord, give me the good news first. Well, Moses, the good news is I've chosen you to deliver my people from bondage, God answered. I'll force Pharaoh to release my children by causing years of pestilence in Egypt. There'll be plagues of locusts and frogs and devastation on the land. Pharaoh's armies will chase you, but fear not. I'll part the waters of the Red Sea and aid in your escape. Wow, said Moses, what's the bad news? God shuffled his feet for a minute and said, well, you'll have to prepare the environmental impact statement for the Unitarian Universalists. Now, the good news today is you don't have to prepare an impact statement. The bad news is we can't survive on social justice alone, and Moses isn't going to show up with a bag full of gold. So the morning offering will now be given and received. There'll be a link in the chat. 1/2 of our plate goes to the internal social justice programs of the church, and 1/2 to our faith and action partners, Knock and Drop and Just Voices. Thank you all so much for these gifts and for everything that you do for the life and the work of this community. I have two quotes for us to think about today as we enter into a time of meditation. And meditation is that moment where you decompress for just a moment. You let go of everything. You think about a simple thought, or you empty your mind. But here are two quotes to perhaps think about. One is by Albert Einstein, the other one's by the Dalai Lama. Einstein said, "We experience ourselves, our thoughts and our feelings, as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness." So think about that for a second, an optical delusion of consciousness, the idea that we are separate from the rest. And then add these words from the Dalai Lama. In our quest for happiness and the avoidance of suffering, we are all fundamentally the same and therefore equal. Despite the characteristics that differentiate us, race and language, religion, gender, wealth, and many others, we are all equal in terms of our basic humanity. And with those words, please join me in 1 minute of silent thought, meditation, or prayer. We're now going to have a brief message about the kitchen project.
Dishwasher's broken, fridges are stained, cleaning's not enough.
Cooking with the oven is a real chore. Don't look now, there's mold on the floor.
Wouldn't you like more room to dish out coffee, meals, and more?
Time has decayed it, won't you upgrade it
When it's 64.
Counter hard island, trash out of sight, skylights overhead.
Safer, eco-friendly new appliances. We deserve the best that there is.
Easier cleanup, easier prep. Who could ask ask for more.
Time has betrayed it, won't you upgrade it when it's 64? When it's 64.
Are you old enough to remember that song? Wow, those lyrics are sure a blast from the past.
For sure. And did you know that our well-used church kitchen is now 64 years old?
And it is needing an upgrade to continue feeding us for another 64 years. So today we are thrilled to announce that a member of our congregation has pledged a challenge grant of $40,000 for all those donations received this month.
Yes, that means every dollar donated to the kitchen project in January will be matched up to $40,000.
So, watch your snail mail this next week to learn how you can help us reach this fundraising goal with this incredible match offer.
Also, check out the new kitchen project page on our website, where you can see the final floor plans and donate via PushPay.
Just be sure to click on the kitchen project button.
Will you still need me?
Will you still feed me?
When I'm 64,
Thank you to everyone on the kitchen project. That was amazing. And thank you especially Barb and Deidre. It takes all of us to do these amazing projects, and I cannot stress enough how much we need you to help make our dream of having a new and remodeled kitchen come alive. So please donate. We come together here as a community to do this good work together and to be with each other in our joys and in our sorrows and in everything in between. Would you please hold in your thoughts and prayers this week Janice Hawkins. Janice texted on Thursday. She was in Methodist Hospital. She'd had a mini stroke and a small inoperable blood clot. She is home now. She can write better than she can speak. So you may want to text or email. Bob Glass was 82 on New Year's Day. And for those of you who don't know this, his picture was on the cover of Life magazine in 1947 that featured New Year's babies. Barb and Bob left on Tuesday for a 6-week stay in South Padre Island to bask in the sun and the warm weather. Please feel free to send late birthday cards to their home address. You received an email this week letting you know, obviously, that the building will be closed through January due to COVID. The numbers are just way too high to safely meet. If you have questions or concerns, please contact me or the board president, Greg Nichols, or board VP, Reba Eagles. All services will be digital and the staff will be holding digital office hours through January. We'll reassess the first week of February. We're not doing it like last time. So the building is not rock solid, completely, totally shut down. If for some reason your group must meet in the building, please make sure you get a key card from Hannah. Make arrangements to pick that up because we cannot guarantee which staff members will be in the building when to let you in. And remember, there's no eating, drinking, or singing in the building right now. You must remain masked at all times. Let's share together now the names of anyone we know who could use some special care and attention. And as we type their names into the chat, may the love of this community hold them all. May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May the work of our hands and our hearts support, aid, and comfort all those who hunger or thirst for food or water, justice or freedom. May we never look away where we're needed. May all those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed. And may those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. Every week together, we light 3 real or virtual candles for all the joys and the sorrows that we've shared. One for the names we've written here, and one last candle for all of the joys and all of the sorrows that are deeply held in our hearts, but which remain unspoken here today.
Our first reading today is Disposable America by Marnell Ketchner. Disposable America, there's no shortage of irony in the land of the free, where non-whites are guilty if they stay or they flee, where high melanin levels mean you're a criminal by birthright, and white cops go pop, pop, pop. So what if your alibi's airtight? The Bureau of Justice says violent crime stats keep decreasing, yet the far right calls for ever more policing. Of private prisons, there is no dearth to house the highest incarceration rate on the earth. That's because penitentiaries are big business, and fat cats only care about their physical fitness. Not everyone's a candidate for a life spent in jail, but you better be born to wealth with skin quite pale. For if you're young, rich, and white, but caught smoking weed, that's a regrettable, though easily overlooked, misguided deed. But if you're young, poor, and black, they send you to prison, as just one puff makes you a despicable villain. Meanwhile, with corporate crime at its zenith, you get a pass if you're old, white, and have a penis. Maintaining the status quo is all that matters, not black lives that are increasingly in tatters. The disposable lifestyle of the baby boomers makes them a generation of planet doomers, born to unbridled consumerism and convenience, apathetic to the costs of environmental malfeasance. With overstuffed pantries, closets, and bank accounts, they remain unmoved as each national crisis mounts. Armed with privilege and greed-filled drives, they throw away plastic and Black people's lives.
Our second reading today is from We Need Co-Conspirators, Not Allies, How White Americans Can Fight Racism, a 2015 article written for The Guardian by Rose Hackman. In America, where 62% of the population identifies as Caucasian, white people are easy to find. But white people have not been as visible in the aftermath of the Charleston massacre last week, where a young white man and his white supremacist ideas entered a historically Black church and shot 9 churchgoers dead. People who are not Black can no longer sit on the margins. They can no longer just express their sympathy. Those are shallow words. Ariel Newton, a 23-year-old Black blogger, said at a rally in Harlem in New York City on Monday. They have to act intentionally from a point of pro-Blackness, to work to make sure that Black people are given the equity that we deserve. About 100 mourners and Black Lives Matter protesters attended the rally. Despite the protest area explicitly being defined as a Black-centered space by organizers, much of the dialogue that ensued was focused on white people, white ideologies and conversations white people may or may not be having at their dinner tables. Standing toward the back of the gathering, carrying a poster that stated Black Lives Matter, on one side and the names of Black women and girls killed by police on the other, Babby Dunnington, a 29-year-old white teacher, was just one of a few white faces in Tuesday's majority Black crowd. She said that the change had to come from white people. Black people didn't enslave themselves. It shouldn't be on them to correct that. White people have the responsibility to understand that they live in a racist society that they have created. I'm not interested in white allies. We need co-conspirators.
Feminista Jones, a 36-year-old social worker and writer, shouted into a bullhorn. Her solemn audience cheered her on. The definition of allyship is to mutually benefit and support. Black people are not obligated to provide support to people who are dominant, Jones said. We're not working together on a mutual goal. My goal is to live. You don't have that same goal. But the disparity in realities does not mean that Jones wants to exclude white people from participating in rallies and civil action. Quite the contrary. Jones wants more, not less. What I need is for people to come and work with us in the trenches and be there alongside us. It's not about being on the outside and saying, yes, I support you. It's about not only do I support you, but I'm here with you. I am rolling up my sleeves. What do I need to do? Discomfort or anxiety about making a faux pas may be a reason some white people are still sitting on the sidelines in terms of uprooting racism. But Dante Berry, executive director of the Million Hoodies Movement for Justice, points out the disparity is so stark, white people may just need to get over their anxiety. Black folks are readily risking their lives every day purely by existing, he says. While the risk being taken by white communities to be in solidarity with Black liberation is getting over that uncomfortable feeling. Our centering song today is number 1020 from our teal hymnal, Wojaya. Please listen at home and enjoy Bruce's arrangement.
Thank you so much, Bruce. That was lovely. When you're talking about activism, it's hard to know where to start. But where we start is in knowing that we can do this. We absolutely can do this. You know, when we were moving to Iowa in 2019, I wasn't sure we could do that. Moving's a funny thing. You realize that owning a house is sort of like owning the world's largest junk drawer. After a while, it's filled with things you need and things you don't need and things you love and things you really can't quite identify anymore. Even some really big things that got in there somehow and you're not sure how to get out again. If you've ever had to move, this may sound familiar. We tried to get rid of things. People said they wanted things and immediately moved to somewhere in outer Mongolia without a forwarding address. Our moving date kept getting closer and somehow we still owned all the things. And I thought of selling the house as is, oddly half furnished. I wondered about the cost of a dumpster. And every time the idea of a dumpster crossed my mind, I thought about all the things we throw away. I thought about my mother's mother, who'd been raised poor in an orphanage because her family couldn't afford to feed her. And she was a fabric artist, a quilter, saved every scrap she ever saw. And she would change the design to make sure that every scrap got used. I thought about how she would feel seeing the amazing waste, our discarded junk. You do well in general at minimizing junk. That's true. We recycle. We tend to buy carefully, and yet we're surrounded by a world where disposable is a way of life. It's easier and cheaper, right, to get rid of it than to fix it. You tried to fix a modern Mr. Coffee coffee pot, they laugh at you and tell you to go buy a new one. It's easier to accept planned obsolescence and lousy construction. There's only so many battles we can fight. And it's the shadow of this worldview that interests me, because we're not just talking about material disposability. That disposability leaks like rancid water all over everything. And the way we treat things becomes the way we treat people if we're not careful. Life becomes a commodity. We start to treat difficult relationships the way we treat difficult repairs. It's easier to ignore it. It's easier just to throw it out. And that gets problematic when we consider our first two principles: the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and striving toward equity and justice and compassion. I'm as guilty as anyone else of thinking of some relationships as disposable. They're broken, they're too hard to fix, they're too expensive, I don't have the time. Relationships with people we don't understand, with people who don't understand us. Relationships where we get it wrong over and over again. Ally relationships are some of the places where it's easy to get wrong. And it's even easier to consider discarding them because they're work. They're risky commitments to connection that leave us open and vulnerable. But we can do this. They can cause pain. They hold privilege up to a mirror we would rather not see. And at times they feel downright impossible. But we can do this because activism in and of itself, well, it's simple. You can support things that you agree with, support a politician. You can fight for your own interest and the interest of others like you. That's activism. It's meaningful. It's valuable. It's the equivalent of wrapping your own belongings in plastic wrap before you move. You're protecting your stuff. But the call to activism is bigger. It's a call to work for things that don't personally impact you. You don't just have to wrap your stuff and move it safely. You're responsible for what happens to the rest of it. You're responsible. Because the rest of it is learning to be an ally. And right now that word gets tossed around a lot. We have to walk with people and fight for people whose experience of the world looks nothing like ours. We have a hymn in our gray hymnal that says, "Walking with you is our prayer." If that's true, then we have to walk on some roads that are not familiar. And we have to walk on roads that lead to places we would not otherwise go. And how we do it matters. A few years ago, there was a writer named Mia McKenzie. If you've not read her stuff, it's worth it. She runs a blog called Black Girl Dangerous. She wrote a book called Black Girl Dangerous. A few years ago, she wrote a piece called 8 Ways Not to Be an Ally, a non-comprehensive list. This piece was sarcastic and angry And a lot of it is not repeatable here. But it gets right to the heart of some of the ways we get lost trying to walk on those unfamiliar roads. I want to look at those missteps today because we can do this. As we often get presented with opportunities to side with love. We go to marches and vigils and protest. We write. We rise in solidarity with angry Black people in Ferguson, Missouri, with oppressed and threatened LGBTQ people in Uganda. We go on mission trips. We sleep outside in cardboard tent cities to call attention to the plight of the homeless. But you don't get a big red A for allyship to hang around your neck or put on your forehead because you've done something. Fighting oppression is ongoing and we can do it. But if we're not in the trenches, every time we get a chance, we don't get to keep telling people about that one time we got out there. Mia McKenzie writes, remember that time your uncle said all the effed up stuff about illegal Mexican immigrants? And you were all like, actually, Uncle, California's Mexico. So you need to read your history because you're hella racist. That stuff rocked, bruh. And it totally means that you're an ally with a capital A for like ever and ever. Done and done. Let's go get a celebratory Slurpee. But you know what else? Nope. Being an ally takes way more practice than that. It's a consistently active and evolving thing. Those don't feel like friendly words on first blush when you first hear that. But if you think about it for a moment, the fact that she took the time to tell the truth, that's an act of love. And once we realize that unless we keep doing the work, we're not active allies, we also have to realize it's not just about our feelings. And I know I've put my foot down my throat enough times. The taste is lousy. But we can do it. It hurts when I'm trying to help and someone from the group I'm helping tells me I'm doing it wrong. Or worse yet, that I need to be quiet and listen, but it's true. Our education will never be more important than someone else's life experience. It's okay that I was only asking a question because I wanted to help, but it's also okay for me to hear that my question was offensive or a microaggression, that I have to accept that. It's okay. Keep doing it. Mess up 1,000 times, get better each time. We can do this. It's okay. Some areas of the work are really challenging. Alliance through dating is one of them. Dating only people of a specific race outside your own or from a specific marginalized ethnicity or religion, or only dating trans people, that doesn't make you an ally. Allyship isn't contagious. It may mean you are an ally, or it may mean you have fetishized a particular group. Keep doing the work. You can do it. Keep doing it. And one of the phrases heard quite often around ally work is, I don't see race, or I don't see gender, or I don't see handicap, or any other of a host of areas. The problem with this is it makes the person invisible. You don't see the thing that's part of what makes them who they are. They have to live with it every day of their life. You don't get to just be blind to something that's a big part of them. It's easy to be uncomfortable about our privilege, and it's terribly easy to be an ally until we feel we've done enough, and then it's time to go home to bed. But being an ally doesn't stop when I've done enough not to feel guilty right now. It means I keep working until success. It means that I make the commitment that I'm not done until everyone gets to go home to bed. It's straightforward to challenge oppression personally. I can tell my brother to stuff a sock in it when he's being a racist. But it's braver to explain to a radical feminist, to explain to J.K. Rowling that they're being anti-trans, or to stop a company from discriminating against LGBTQ people. Being an ally means doing it in public, in places of power, not just at home or in church. And you can do it. We can do it. It means doing the legwork and not getting on TV. It means you're doing it because it's right, not because you'll be recognized or thanked. You're not a savior. You're a load bearer, a foot soldier in a battle that'll take away your privilege. Being an ally means we should read and reread again the words of marginalized people. We can learn from them. They can't learn from us what it means to be marginalized. We cannot teach them what it means to be oppressed. The experience is not ours. To paraphrase LGBTQ author Helen Boyd, not being a jerk doesn't make you a miracle. It doesn't even make you a good person, just a decent one. Our goal is not to save the world. Our goal is just to be an ally, and we can do it. We can commit to making the world a little less broken. That's all we're asking. We can commit to going beyond that as soon as we can and becoming the co-conspirator that Feminista Jones called for in our reading this morning. What's the difference? Well, co-conspirator has given up all privilege, and they can't just put down the struggle and go home either. It's theirs now, and they are in it to win it. We are in it to win it. Every day we find new ways to work toward a better world, and we can do it. We can support each other and comfort and guide one another, lead each other to do this amazing work. So many of you are already committed to it. Invite one another into what you are doing, and you can help lead us there. The call is simple. If you want to move forward, you have to look at all the things you already own, all the attitudes and platitudes and the fears and the beliefs. Take the ones that don't work to the metaphorical dump and start again fresh. Meet the neighbors and struggle with them to make your neighborhood the best place ever, to make your world the best place ever. One world, one big house with all of us in it together, and we can do it. Yes, we can. Amen.
We extinguish this chalice and know that we carry its fire in our hearts. Our final song today is 1028, an arrangement of our hymn, Fire of Commitment.
The service is ending, but your service has just begun. Share yourself with the world, and everywhere you go, may there be light. peace, ashe, and may it be so. Please remember today, I'm going to play the Hymn of Valor video in just a minute, but please remember today we have a forum at 11. So our coffee hour breakout rooms will end promptly at 10:57.